Good morning to you all. I'm Mandira Singh Shrestha, and I work for the International Center for Integrated Mountain Development located in Kathmandu. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank the Ignite Stage team for giving me this wonderful platform, for sharing our work on regional cooperation on establishment of a flood information system in the Hindu Kush Himalayan region. Now, for the next 15 minutes, what I would like to share with you is I'd like to give you a quick background of my organization, ICIMOD, where we work, what kind of work we do, and then provide you with some of the statistics in terms of the distribution of disasters in the Hindu Kush Himalayan region, and what have some of the recent flood disasters have been, and what are the lessons learned. Then I'd like to share with you our work on the establishment of a regional flood information system, some of the challenges and opportunities, and how ICIMOD is moving forward to the post-2015 framework. So ICIMOD is an international intergovernmental organization. We are a knowledge and learning center located in Kathmandu, Nepal. As you can see from the map here, we work in 8 countries: Afghanistan, Bangladesh, Bhutan, China, India, Myanmar, Nepal, and Pakistan. So it is this entire region from east to west, covering a total area of about 3,500 kilometers, and our main mission is to promote sustainable and resilient mountain communities, particularly through knowledge and regional cooperation. Now, this is a very active region, very weak geological formation, hence the region is extremely prone to various types of natural disasters. Now, to give you an idea of what kind of natural disasters we have and the distribution of the disasters, from this slide, you can see that we have a number of different types of disasters, and particularly what draws our attention is that floods account for a significant percentage of this disaster. Now, when you look at the flood disasters in the Hindu Kush Himalayan region, we find that over 1/3 of all these disasters are floods. And what is common here across the region, as you can see from this map, is that these floods are transboundary in nature. So the water from one country goes to the next country, and further, it's not only the water or the floods that move across boundaries, but it is also the vulnerabilities and risks that are shared across the boundaries. You can see some of the slides here, the photos of the recent flood disasters in the Hindu Kush Himalayan region, the 2010 as well as the 2014 floods in Pakistan and India, as well as the 2013 floods in Uttarakhand in India, basically calling for stronger regional cooperation in flood risk reduction. Now, some of the lessons that have been learned from these recent flood disasters that I just gave you examples of is that there are data gaps, not enough data for timely flood early warning. And also the capacities that exist in the region varies across the region. In terms of flood forecasting, in terms of disaster management, we also realize that there is a need for end-to-end flood information system, and that there are room for institutional mechanisms to be put in place, proper governance mechanisms to be put in place for timely warning, as well as during these recent floods, what we realized is many of the infrastructures were washed away, were damaged, basically calling for the need to look into also proper infrastructure planning as well as designing. And the most important here is that since it's transboundary, it provides an opportunity for cooperation across borders. Now, an example that I would like to share with you is the innovation in technologies for an end-to-end flood early warning system. And how ISDR has defined the early warning systems is according to the 4 pillars of early warning system. So what are the 4 pillars of early warning system? They are risk knowledge, monitoring and warning, dissemination and communication, response and recovery. The focus of my presentation is, however, on the monitoring and the warning part. So an example is this WICOS program of the World Meteorological Organization, WHYCOS standing for the World Hydrological Cycle Observing System. It has a number of regional programs, and the Hindu Kush Himalayan HYCOS is one of the programs. Its main aim is to improve basic observation, strengthen international cooperation, and free exchange of data and information across boundaries. So we have the Hindu Kush Himalayan HYCOS, which seeks to set up monitoring stations and establishment of real-time flood early warning systems in the basin. Our motto is making information travel faster than flood waters. And what it aims to do is timely exchange of flood data and information through an accessible and user-friendly platform. Our keen efforts are towards technology transfer, capacity building in the region. Now, what we have done over the last couple years is that we have established hydrometeorological stations with our partners. I'm very happy to see some of our partners here from Pakistan as well. And our partners are from Bangladesh, Bhutan, Nepal, and Pakistan, who have worked on these hydrometeorological stations and established them across the boundaries. So in total, there are 38 hydrometeorological stations across the region transmitting real-time data. Now, the technology we are using in terms of real-time data is the state of the art in terms of using mobile phone technology like the CDMA and the GSM technology. Some of example is also the satellite communications, which enables the real-time data from the field, from the stations, to actually come to your station, to come to your desktops, where you require to analyze these data and information and provide the warning that is required. Now, the 38 stations is very few. You might question, is 38 stations really going to be enough? So you need to look at how we kind of look at the data gaps. So we are also exploring the use of some of the other technologies in terms of filling in the data gaps. For example, the satellite-based rainfall estimates. So we're using the space-based technologies, as well as looking at further using the global telecommunication data that the World Meteorological Organization is providing, and also voluntary commitments from our partners in terms of sharing real-time data. Now, the question here that you might have in your mind is, what are we doing with this real-time data? Yes, the data is coming to the database. So what is the question, right? So here we have a regional flood information system, as well as the national flood information systems. And with this data that is coming in real time, we are developing flood outlook products. So a model has been developed for the Ganges-Brahmaputra basin. This is a test model piloted in 2014, where products were developed and real-time information was put into these models. It's a hydrologic and hydrodynamic model, which provides the flood situation in any particular basin area. So this was successfully tested in 2014. Now, another good example that I would like to share with you with the data that has been developed. In 2014, August, there was this huge disaster that occurred in Nepal. It was a huge landslide disaster in the Sunkoshi River, one of the tributaries of the Koshi River system. And what happened was there was this big blockage and a big lake formed upstream. So fortunately, we had this real-time data set up by the project, by the Department of Hydrology of Meteorology of Nepal, which enabled to look at what is happening in the basin and in the rivers. And here you can see this graph here basically shows you how the water went down and how it came up. So it is one of the benefits of looking at such technology in terms of real-time data in the basins. So now with that, I would like to share with you some of the challenges, because here we're looking at sharing of data information across international borders. So definitely we have to work with our partners in terms of the acceptance of the whole rationale, in terms of the regional solidarity of sharing of data and information. There are technical challenges in terms of harmonization of the data, formats, as well as the various information systems and equipment in place. And there are also institutional issues on that regards. So what are some of the ways to address some of these challenges? And here I would like to stress on the need for sharing data across boundaries, promoting regional cooperation, using some of the advanced technologies like Earth observations, and filling in the data gaps. Now, the second point I would like to focus on is the need to strengthen institutional mechanisms and governance systems. Sometimes we have the best systems in place, but again, where we fall short is the institutional mechanisms and the governance systems that need to be put in place when such disasters strike. And finally, of course, you have the data, you have the information, you have the forecast, but is it going to be accessible to the users, to the end users, to the men and the women in the communities? So we need to focus on seeing that these warnings should be available, accessible, understandable, as well as actionable. The key word is action. Action needs to take place on the ground to save lives and properties. So there are a lot of opportunities for cooperation in the region, particularly in terms of better understanding of the extreme events in the context of climate change, as well as opportunity for regional cooperation, collaboration, further for sharing of data and timely warning, joint capacity buildings, trainings, focusing on that, mutual learnings, providing common platforms for these countries to come together, sharing of experiences, and finally, of course, promoting partnerships, international as well as regional, across for disaster risk reduction. Finally, what I will have to share with you is that ICIMOD is committed towards disaster risk reduction in the region. And for the post-2015 the framework, we are very much committed in terms of working further in the disaster risk reduction area, particularly through promoting of new technologies like space-based technologies for disaster risk reduction, and as well as for better preparedness, and also strengthening of the institutions as well as governance mechanisms that are in place, building capacities at various levels, so it's at the regional level, at the national level, as well as the local level, and providing this platform for regional cooperation for improved and comprehensive disaster risk reduction. So if you have any questions that you may have for me, I would be happy to take about 1 or 2 questions. Yes, sir. Can the mic be?
Thank you very much for a very good presentation. I would just like to highlight one issue. You know, in the Hindu-Kush Himalayan region, where there is a host of nations, and they are jointly bearing the brunt of climate change-induced disasters, there is a need of a very cogent and a very considered data communication system with specific reference to the downstream riparian countries, so that in the event of happening of any disaster upstream, a real-time information is communicated, because that is basically the major source of devastation the downstream countries are taking. And I think that ICIMOD, when they are working too much in the region, they should include that very aspect in their commitments towards working from 2015 onwards.
Thank you very much, Kamalji, for your very important recommendations for ICIMOD. I'm pleased here to see Dr. Kamal, who is a very keen supporter of the Hindu-Kush Himalayan High Course from Pakistan. Thank you very much. May I take another question from the participants here? Well, I can see a lot of interest here with the big gathering that we have here. And so I would definitely like to take this opportunity for all of you to being here, to thank you for being here and for listening to this very, very important issue in terms of regional cooperation, in terms of how we are working, in terms of what our efforts would be in 2015 framework and beyond. So I thank you all for being here, and would again like to thank the Ignite stage organizers for providing me this opportunity. Thank you very much.